Do you know that hidden deep within the rugged desert canyons of modern-day Jordan lies one of the most mysterious and breathtaking cities ever created by human hands, Petra, famously known as the Rose City because of the pink-red color of its stone cliffs. Carved directly into towering rock formations, Petra has fascinated historians, archaeologists, and travelers for centuries. Yet beyond its beauty lies an even greater mystery. How did an ancient desert civilization build such an advanced city in one of the harshest environments on Earth? The story of Petra begins with the Nabataeans, a nomadic Arab people believed to have settled in the region around the 4th century BC. Originally traders and desert travelers, the Nabataeans mastered survival in the arid deserts of the Middle East. While many civilizations relied on rivers or fertile lands, the Nabataeans flourished in barren terrain through intelligence, engineering, and control of trade routes. Petra's location was not chosen randomly. Situated between major ancient trade networks connecting Arabia, Egypt, Syria, and the Mediterranean world, Petra became a strategic commercial hub. Caravans carrying valuable goods such as incense, spices, silk, and precious metals passed through the city. By controlling these routes, the Nabataeans accumulated enormous wealth and transformed Petra into a thriving center of culture and commerce. What made Petra extraordinary was not only its economic importance, but also its architecture. Unlike traditional cities built with bricks or stone blocks, Petra was carved directly into massive sandstone cliffs. Temples, tombs, stairways, and entire facades emerged from solid rock with astonishing precision, the most famous structure, known today as Al-Khazneh or the Treasury, stands as one of the greatest examples of rock-cut architecture in history. Rising nearly 40 meters high, its intricate carvings combine influences from Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and Nabataean styles. For centuries, travelers have asked the same question: how did ancient people create something so advanced without modern tools? The answer lies partly in Nabataean craftsmanship. Skilled workers used chisels, hammers, and carefully planned techniques to shape the soft sandstone cliffs. Construction often began from the top of the rock face and moved downward, reducing the risk of collapse. Even more impressive was the precision and symmetry achieved despite the limitations of ancient technology. Yet Petra's true genius was not just architectural, it was environmental. The region surrounding Petra receives very little rainfall. Survival depended entirely on water management. The Nabataeans engineered one of the ancient world's most sophisticated hydraulic systems, including dams, channels, underground cisterns, and ceramic pipelines. These systems collected seasonal rainwater and stored it for use throughout the year. This innovation turned a dry desert into a flourishing urban center capable of supporting tens of thousands of people. By the 1st century AD, Petra had reached its golden age. At its peak, the city likely housed over 20 zero residents and welcomed traders from across the ancient world. Markets bustled with activity, religious ceremonies took place in grand temples, and wealth flowed through the city's narrow canyon entrance known as the Sikh. The Sikh itself added to Petra's mystery and defensive strength. This narrow gorge, stretching over 1 kilometer, served as the main entrance to the city. Towering cliffs on both sides concealed Petra from outsiders until the final dramatic reveal of the Treasury. This natural design not only protected the city from invaders, but also created an unforgettable visual experience. Petra's rise reflected the brilliance of the Nabataeans, a civilization capable of blending engineering, commerce, art, and survival into a single masterpiece carved into stone. But despite its power and wealth, Petra's dominance would not last forever. By the beginning of the 1st century AD, Petra had become one of the richest and most influential cities in the ancient world. Hidden among desert mountains yet connected to major trade routes, Petra stood as the shining capital of the Nabataean kingdom. Its prosperity came primarily from trade. The Nabataeans controlled caravan routes that transported incense from southern Arabia, spices from India, silk from Asia, and luxury goods from Egypt and the Mediterranean. These goods passed through Petra before reaching major markets across the Roman world. This strategic position transformed Petra into a cultural crossroads where different civilizations met and exchanged ideas. Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and Arab influences merged within Petra's architecture, religion, and daily life. This cultural blending is visible throughout the city's monuments. Structures featured Greek columns, Roman symmetry, Egyptian inspired decorations, and uniquely Nabataean artistic elements. The city's streets were filled with merchants, travelers, priests, and craftsmen from different regions of the ancient world. One of Petra's greatest architectural achievements was its extensive network of tombs and temples carved into sandstone cliffs. These structures were not only places of burial or worship, they were symbols of wealth, status, and identity. Among the most remarkable monuments was the monastery, or Ad-Der, one of Petra's largest carved structures, reached by climbing hundreds of stone steps. The monastery demonstrates the scale and ambition of Nabataean engineering. At the same time, Petra's water systems continued to support urban life in the harsh desert environment. The Nabataeans built dams to prevent flash floods, reservoirs to store water, and underground channels to distribute it throughout the city. This level of planning allowed gardens, fountains, and public baths to exist in an otherwise dry region. Petra was not just surviving in the desert, it was mastering it. By the early 2nd century AD, Petra stood at the height of its power and influence. Its markets overflowed with wealth, caravans crossed its desert routes daily, and its monumental architecture amazed travelers from across the ancient world. Yet despite its strength, Petra's independence would soon come to an end. In 106 AD, the Nabataean kingdom was absorbed into the expanding Roman Empire under Emperor Trajan. Rather than destroying Petra, the Romans recognized its strategic and economic importance. The city became part of the Roman province known as Arabia Petrea. At first, Roman rule brought stability and continued prosperity. The Romans improved roads, expanded trade systems, and introduced elements of Roman urban design into Petra. New buildings were constructed, public spaces were renovated, and Roman cultural influence became increasingly visible throughout the city. One of the most significant Roman additions was Petra's colonnaded street, a grand avenue lined with columns, shops, and public buildings. The city also saw the construction of theaters, temples, and baths influenced by Roman architectural styles. However, beneath this apparent prosperity, subtle changes were already beginning to weaken Petra's importance. The ancient trade routes that once made Petra wealthy gradually shifted. Roman maritime trade across the Red Sea became more efficient than desert caravans, reducing Petra's role as a commercial hub. Goods that once passed through the city now traveled by sea, bypassing Petra entirely. As trade declined, so did the city's economic power. At the same time, Petra faced another challenge far more dangerous than political change: nature itself. The city was built in a region prone to earthquakes. While the Nabataeans had mastered water engineering and desert survival, they could not fully protect Petra from powerful seismic events. One of the earliest major earthquakes struck in 363 AD Historical records suggest that this disaster caused severe damage throughout the city. Temples collapsed, buildings cracked, and sections of Petra's complex water system were destroyed. For a city dependent on careful water management, this damage was catastrophic. Without fully functioning channels, reservoirs, and pipelines, Petra struggled to sustain its population. Flash floods became harder to control, and water shortages likely increased. Although some repairs were attempted, Petra never fully recovered its former greatness. During the Byzantine period, Christianity spread through the region, and several structures within Petra were converted into churches. Mosaics and Christian symbols discovered by archaeologists show that life continued in the city for centuries after Roman control began to fade. Yet Petra's population continued to decline steadily. Another devastating earthquake struck in 551 AD, causing further destruction. By this point, Petra was already weakened economically and politically. The disaster accelerated the city's abandonment. Over time, trade routes shifted permanently, populations moved elsewhere, and Petra slowly disappeared from the center of history. What makes Petra's decline particularly fascinating is that the city was not destroyed in a single dramatic event. Instead, it faded gradually through economic change, environmental disaster, and historical transformation. As centuries passed, the once thriving metropolis became increasingly isolated, sand-covered pathways. Earthquakes shattered monuments, desert winds echoed through empty temples and tombs. The great rose-colored city that had once connected civilizations slowly transformed into a forgotten ruin hidden deep within the mountains of Jordan. And eventually, Petra vanished from the knowledge of much of the outside world. For hundreds of years, stories of a mysterious city carved into stone survived mainly in local legends and scattered references by travelers. Many people in Europe and beyond had no idea that such a place even existed. The world had forgotten Petra. But Petra had not disappeared forever. Hidden behind towering cliffs and concealed by the desert landscape, the city waited silently for centuries, until one explorer would bring it back into the eyes of the modern world. For centuries after its decline, Petra remained hidden from much of the world. While local Bedouin tribes continued to know of its existence, the once great city had largely vanished from global memory. Nature slowly reclaimed its monuments, desert winds swept through empty corridors, and the magnificent rose-colored facades faded into silence. To the outside world, Petra had become little more than a legend that changed in the early 19th century. In 1812, a Swiss explorer named Johann Ludwig Burckhardt embarked on a journey through the Middle East. Burckhardt was deeply interested in ancient civilizations and had spent years learning Arabic and studying local customs. Disguised as an Arab traveler to avoid suspicion, he traveled through the region now known as Jordan. During his journey, Burckhardt heard local stories about mysterious ruins hidden within the mountains near the village of Wadi Musa, a place traditionally associated with the biblical figure Moses. Curious and determined, Burckhardt convinced a local guide to take him there. As he passed through the narrow canyon known as the Sick, towering rock walls rose dramatically on either side. The pathway twisted through the stone, concealing what lay ahead. Then, suddenly, the canyon opened, and before him stood one of the most extraordinary sights in human history, Al-Khazneh, the famous treasury of Petra. Carved directly into red sandstone cliffs, the monument appeared almost unreal. Sunlight illuminated its towering columns and intricate carvings, creating a breathtaking contrast against the desert rock. Burckhardt had rediscovered Petra for the Western world. news of the discovery spread rapidly across Europe. Explorers, historians, archaeologists, and artists became fascinated by the hidden city carved into stone. Petra soon captured the imagination of travelers and scholars alike. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, expeditions to Petra increased. Archaeologists began documenting the city's structures, mapping its streets, and studying its history. Yet, despite these efforts, much of Petra remained buried beneath sand and debris. Even today, experts believe that a large portion of the city is still undiscovered. Excavations revealed the incredible complexity of Nabataean engineering. Researchers uncovered sophisticated water systems, ceremonial spaces, residential areas, tombs, and temples. The more scientists studied Petra, the more mysterious and advanced it appeared. One of the most remarkable discoveries was the scale of Petra itself. Many visitors only recognize famous landmarks like the Treasury or the monastery, but Petra is actually a vast archaeological landscape covering hundreds of square kilometers. Hidden within its valleys and cliffs are thousands of carved structures, pathways, altars, and underground chambers. As interest in Petra grew, it also became a global cultural symbol. Writers described it as a lost wonder of the ancient world. Painters captured its beauty in dramatic artworks. Later, filmmakers introduced Petra to new generations through movies and documentaries. One of the most famous modern appearances of Petra came in the film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where the Treasury served as the entrance to the fictional temple of the Holy Grail. This exposure brought millions of new visitors and increased Petra's international fame. However, growing tourism also created new challenges. The soft sandstone cliffs that make Petra so visually stunning are also fragile. Wind erosion, flooding, earthquakes, and human activity continue to threaten the site. Conservationists and archaeologists have worked for decades to preserve Petra's monuments and prevent irreversible damage. In 1985, Petra received one of the highest forms of international recognition when it was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. UNESCO described Petra as one of humanity's most precious cultural treasures. Later, in 2007, Petra was named one of the new 7 wonders of the world, further cementing its global status. Today, Petra attracts visitors from across the world. Travelers walk through the sick just as ancient merchants once did, experiencing the same dramatic reveal of the treasury hidden within the canyon. Yet, even after centuries of research, Petra continues to raise questions. How did the Nabataeans organize such massive construction projects? How advanced were their engineering methods, and how much of the city still remains hidden beneath the desert sands? Petra is more than a historical site. It is a reminder of humanity's creativity, ambition, and ability to adapt to extreme environments. A city once lost to time had returned to the world, but its greatest mysteries still remain carved into stone. Even after centuries of exploration and research, Petra continues to puzzle historians, archaeologists, and engineers around the world. Unlike many ancient cities whose histories are clearly documented, Petra remains filled with unanswered questions. That mystery is part of what makes Petra so extraordinary. How did the Nabataeans, a desert people with limited natural resources, create one of the most advanced urban centers of the ancient world? How were massive monuments carved with such precision into towering sandstone cliffs? And how did a civilization in the middle of the desert masterwater engineering so effectively that it sustained a thriving population for centuries? Modern technology has revealed only part of the answer. Archaeologists using satellite imaging ground, penetrating radar and drone surveys continue to uncover hidden structures buried beneath the sands around Petra. In recent years, researchers discovered enormous ceremonial platforms and previously unknown ruins, suggesting that much of the ancient city still remains unexplored. Some experts believe that only a small percentage of Petra has been fully excavated. This means the desert may still hide tombs, temples, living quarters, and secrets untouched for nearly 2,000 years. One of Petra's greatest mysteries remains its construction techniques. The Nabataeans carved entire structures directly into cliffs without modern machinery. Experts believe workers likely used iron tools, ropes, scaffolding, and careful geometric planning. Construction usually began at the top of the rock face and moved downward, a dangerous and highly skilled process. Yet the level of symmetry and artistic detail remains astonishing even by modern standards. Monuments like Al-Khazneh and dare continue to inspire debate over how such perfection was achieved in the ancient world. Another enduring mystery involves Petra's water system. The Nabataeans transformed one of the driest regions on Earth into a functioning city capable of supporting thousands of residents and travelers. Their dams, reservoirs, ceramic pipes, and underground channels demonstrated engineering knowledge far ahead of its time. Some researchers even compare Petra's hydraulic systems to modern urban water management techniques. Beyond engineering and architecture, Petra also carries deep cultural significance. The city represents the intersection of civilizations. Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Arab, and Eastern influences merged within Petra's streets and monuments, creating a unique cultural identity unlike anywhere else in the ancient world. It was not merely a city, it was a crossroads of humanity. Today, Petra stands as one of the most visited historical sites on Earth. Travelers from around the globe journey through the narrow Sick to witness the breathtaking reveal of the Treasury, just as merchants and explorers did thousands of years ago. But Petra is also fragile. Climate change, flash floods, erosion, earthquakes, and mass tourism threaten the preservation of the site. Conservation teams continue to work tirelessly to protect Petra for future generations. Every year, restoration experts stabilize damaged structures and study ways to reduce environmental impact. The challenge is enormous. How do you preserve a city carved into soft sandstone while still allowing millions of people to experience it? Despite these threats, Petra remains timeless. Its silence echoes with the memory of ancient traders, craftsmen, priests, and travelers who once walked its stone pathways. Its towering facades remind humanity of what determination and creativity can achieve, even in the harshest environments. Petra's story is not only about a lost civilization, it is about human ambition, it is about adaptation and survival, and it is about the desire to leave something eternal behind. More than 2,000 years after its rise, the Rose City still stands guarded by desert mountains, glowing red beneath the sunlight, and challenging every generation to uncover its secrets. Petra is not simply a ruin of the past, it is one of history's greatest architectural enigmas. Do you think there are still hidden secrets buried beneath Petra? If you enjoyed exploring the mysteries of Petra, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more epic historical documentaries from around the world.